And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We're on episode 103. That's right.
Are we?
Yeah, we are.
I thought it was 105.
No, 102 was the
I
last
thought it was 104
one.
last time.
No, it was 102.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
I'm positive. I actually looked this because I have the advantage of when I'm creating the files that we're going to save for the podcast, I have the numbers in all the folders, so the only other one in the folder was 102.
I thought you were going to say I have the advantage of hindsight.
Look behind me. No, but
yes.
yeah, we didn't just do a one-off after coming back after a year. We're doing a second episode.
A two-off, that's right. Last one for the year, baby.
We'll be back in 2026.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Theo will jump right in with topics here. I actually have something I want to start off talking about, because I think it's... Last time we started off talking about games that we were looking forward to, and or games that, like, maybe were interesting.
We start off with games we fucking hate.
Well, sort of. So for
Okay.
2025, at least the beginning of the year, it's kind of a mixed bag in the news I'm hearing about for... I guess I'm including some from the end of 2024 here.
Yes.
Because I talked about how I was really looking forward to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. That's coming out in like 9 days. So it's coming out soon. Still looking forward to it. There's been a little bit of, rumblings and controversy with it because the appeal of the first game was it being like super, super historically accurate to the time and place it was. But there's rumors that, there might be a few like DEI things that have made their way into the game, and that's got people a little worried. But I'm still...
DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, I don't know, there might be like a gay giraffe in the game or something.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter too much to me. I'm just hoping it's still as historically accurate as the first one. I'm still going to play it. We'll see. I have faith in this studio because the first game they made was really, really good.
Yeah.
On the opposite side of that, sorry.
Yes.
What were you
No,
gonna say?
I was just going to say, you did actually remind me of something, because when I do briefly try and put some effort into these, and I looked up like what recent game news had happened. Most of it was all bullcrap I didn't give a fuck about, like updates to Assassin's Creed and shit. But one article I did see was that the developers of Stardew Valley might be continuing development on Stardew Valley in 2025. And I'm fucking psyched for that because I'm currently playing it.
Wait, so
Anyway, that's all I was
they're
gonna
going
say.
to add features to the game or something?
Yeah. I mean, so when we last played it, you and I, it's changed a lot since then. And there's a lot more to it.
Oh, yeah, I've
so
noticed
the
that,
concept that they are going to be adding even more stuff, on top of the fact that I know that there is a really, really good modding scene for it. I'm really excited for that. But yes, sorry.
But sorry, it's funny you mentioned the Assassin's Creed news. That was the next thing I was going to say.
Okay. Well, sorry I said I don't give a shit about it.
The Assassin's Creed Japan one that's coming out, Assassin's Creed Shadows, they are trying so hard to recover.
The one that got absolutely destroyed in the comments because they were like, "Why are you bringing an African samurai into the thing?"
It's more like that was part of it. People have been wanting an Assassin's Creed set in Japan, and there's so many cool historical samurai figures they could have picked from Japanese history, and they chose one guy that was there as the servant of a Portuguese missionary who Nobunaga just thought was interesting because he'd never seen somebody with skin that dark, and there's no proof that he ever actually fought anyone. And they made him into this Omega Samurai in the game. Yeah. So it's silly on the premise of it. But so obviously that really hurt the game's prospects. But they are trying so hard. They just released a bunch of new trailers that kind of recontextualize the game to try and make it look cooler, to try to get anyone to buy it. And there will be some people that buy it.
I was super fucking hyped when, what was it, Syndicate was announced?
Yeah, because
I was like, oh, an Assassin's Creed in London.
Yeah.
Perfect. Stovepipes and chimneys and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And there was very little conversation about it when it came out. I was massively disappointed because I was hoping it was going to be amazing. I watched a little bit of it and I was like, okay, it's the same as it's been for the last 5 years and it's going to be for the next 10 years still.
Well,
just crap.
This one, if they had just like they could have done the same thing they did with Vikings, and just like
Burnt it.
it's another Assassin's Creed game. It's got, here's a historical figure you play as. He's an assassin.
Yeah.
There's Templars. You run around. You stand on top of things, jump into haystacks, and then that's it. That's the whole game. But because they decided to do something as controversial as they did, now everyone is talking about it, and it's getting a lot of bad I think more people might actually be buying it and playing it just to see how bad it is than they would have if no one had said anything. So maybe this is just some...
I know we've done that with some games in the past. I think, though, that with the Assassin's Creed games, I think what people are really angry about, and there's obvious exceptions to this rule in Black Flag, although I think we can both agree that Black Flag shouldn't be an Assassin's Creed game. It should just be a Black Flag game.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed... Black Flag was... I hated whenever they made me go on shore and do the Assassin's Creed bits.
Yes.
All I wanted to do was sail around my ship and listen to sea shanties.
But, that aside, because that was its own beast, I think what everyone dislikes is that you don't really do any assassinating these days. They got it in their heads that, what do people like? People like guns and hammers.
And occasional historical figures popping up.
And it's like, yes, people do like these things in games about these things.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm buying a football game, I don't want to be handed a baseball bat. Like,
just play every sport at once.
Yeah, just it's weird. Like,
you know,
you're not going to be the next Rocket League.
I'm joking a little bit, but I actually would play a game where it was like every piece of sports equipment. Like, you're going out onto a football pitch, right? But it's the American football, and you've got bats and like a baseball bat in one hand, a cricket bat in the other hand. You're wearing hockey pads, and it's just absolute chaos. I would play that game.
But would you play it for more than an hour?
No.
Cool. All right, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Yes. Yeah. No, I think they need to get, because the best parts of Assassin's Creed 2 was the like trying to actually kill the evil dude without. It's like Hitman, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and the Hitman games
is
are amazing.
Very hard to actually do properly because you need to not be detected.
Well, and it's so satisfying when you in Hitman when you pull off those perfect kills.
I would say Assassin's Creed should be an easy version of Hitman. Yeah. And ideally with a close range weapon, because it's so much more satisfying, I think, than if you shoot someone from 30 miles away. It's
definitely lost its identity, and it did so because they started trying out different things when they got past Assassin's Creed 2. So, like, Black Flag added the sailing... Actually, no. 3 added the sailing ships, and Black Flag really leaned into the sailing ships. And then, like, I think a grapple hook got added in the Syndicate one, and they kept adding features, but...
they needed,
that's the thing. They never... It'd be one thing if, like, each game had one unique thing that makes it distinct from the other ones. But what they do is they take all of the unique things from the previous ones, and they just keep stacking them up.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to be too much.
Like, in Brotherhood, they introduced the guild where you could train up assassins and have them help you.
Yeah.
Now, that was fun, but it also made the game immensely easy. Like, because the moment you unlock your assassin fellows, basically the first thing that anyone does, or at least the first thing that anyone I know did, was train up those assassins, and then they are literally an instant kill on a group of guards.
Yeah.
And you have 3 charges of it that respawn pretty quick.
And just let them go.
Yeah, there's no point in using the courtesans anymore, or the thieves, or the mercenaries, because you can just insta-kill anyone.
Yeah. Anyone and everyone.
Yeah. Seemed a bit mad. But Brotherhood was still very fun. Maybe because to do things properly, there was like challenge it. Like, you had to kill the boss guy in a certain way. You couldn't just arrow strike him because you wouldn't complete the 100% synchronization.
So the most and think about the most recent one I think either of us have played has been Valhalla, because we played that for stream. And even that one, we kind of just got bored after a while. Like it opened up interesting, and it was fun early on, and then it just suddenly there was just too much. It became just like go down this checklist.
So I semi-feel bad about that still, because I think you were enjoying it, but I was just really not enjoying it. And I don't think it was even because I wasn't playing it, I think it was because the themes of it were god-awful. There were parts of it, which I will admit were fun, but those parts came, like, later into the game. And when I say later into the game, I mean, like, an hour or an hour and a half in. After you'd left the Nordic lands, you got to England.
Yep.
And you're, like, raiding monasteries and things, right? Mm-hmm. Now, for a start, that's not an assassin thing. If you're raiding a monastery with a band of people, you are not an assassin, you're a mercenary.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know.
There was, and
you were tracking down, like, local bandit chiefs, and that was the... Because you went through a swamp, you got up on a sideboard with your hands, and then you dragged them into the water and killed them. Perfect. Assassinating.
Yeah.
You didn't get caught, you got away, but that was like anything higher than the lowest level bandit chief, and that would not be possible.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, you could do that to regular enemies, but the game's definitely lost their identity as being assassin, which is actually one of the things that I think is a bit of a shame. Looking at the trailers for the Shadows one that's coming out, there are two protagonists, right? There's the one, Yasuke, and then the other one is this woman who's like a ninja, basically.
Yeah, the stealth and the loud.
Yeah, and so it looks like she would be closer to what the original games were, where you're creeping around, you're sneaking, you kill them from stealth, and she has like quite low health, and is just made to be fast, stealthy, get the kill, get out.
Yeah,
that gameplay looks like it might actually be pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm curious to see.
I don't think we could play it on stream because I think when we're streaming, we like to make things as entertaining as possible, as frequent as often. And so we would just end up doing dumb shit and running in with a hammer.
Yeah.
But, like, if we really wanted to enjoy the game, I think you'd have to play that stealth, and you'd have to play it solo, because waiting for someone, like a guard, to go on the right part of his rounds, and then you can sneak out and stab one person, is very satisfying for a single person that's doing it, but boring as shit for anyone watching.
Yep.
I think that's the problem we ran into with Deus Ex quite quickly.
Yeah, although that one, we did end up finishing that up. Luckily, that game wasn't terribly long.
It was pretty long.
I mean,
it wasn't Ni no Kuni long, but it was...
Yeah, I guess I'm comparing it to some of the RPGs we've been playing lately.
Yeah, the JRPGs you've been playing a lot of. Why did I let you play any JRPGs?
You're the one that started it. You started with Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, but Ni no Kuni is... Yeah. That was because I was like, oh, it's such a good game. And it was.
It was a very good game. And, I mean, we had a lot... We got some legendary emotes and things out of that.
I'm not sure if we're going to finish Ni no Kuni 2. But I think it's definitely worth you experiencing it, at least.
That's when you play as the president, right?
Yes. Mind you, I told you that the second Red Rising trilogy starts off dog shit, and you got through that. Did you? Well, yeah. Yeah,
I did. I've listened to it twice.
But the second trilogy starts with the one where there's 4 different voice actors, and like 2 of them are not very good.
I didn't like the voice actor that they got for Lysander in the first one, but I didn't dislike him as much as you did. He does have
Lysander that I didn't like?
Yeah, I think it was, because he was the one that had the very monotone posh accent. And he just doesn't really...
I don't think I'd dislike that. I think it was it was the fucking dude that... I think it was the guy that voiced Lysander, but he also did Cassius, and I want to say that whenever Cassius had like a big, important, emotional line, it would just come out monotone, yeah.
Yeah, because he doesn't have the same presence and voice as the guy that does the Darrow chapters, and did the entire, first 3 books. That guy just, the scene in the first book, now we're getting way off topic already, the scene in the first book where it's near the end and Darrow is taking on one of the proctors, in the sky.
Yeah.
And he kills him with the knife ring. and just like the way I can't even say the line because I can't do it justice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get the chills just because he's got this like the guy that does the reading for those first 3 books and continues to do Darrow's chapters later on. He has such an amazing like range and presence with the way that he reads the characters. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's why I actually found another book series by looking up other books that guy voiced.
Yeah.
Like that he read out. There's a whole other series that I got really, really into and ended up loving. Just because I wanted to hear another story read by that dude.
Yeah, no, I can see why. But yes, we'll be talking about a book later. Actually, do you want to do a book segment? What was the last book that you finished?
God. Actually, I do. Actually, I know exactly the series I want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Because there's 2 trilogies.
Yes.
One of them I have finished twice, and I'll wait till we get there. But this is the trilogy that I finished it, and then I loaned it to Emily for her to read, and then she looked up the author after she finished it. She loved it too, and turned out this was the 3rd trilogy in the series.
Yeah.
So I went back and I've now at the end.
Yes, I remember you telling me about this while I was playing Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
The book that I read. So I picked it up because as I've gotten older, I have started appreciating like romance books as well now.
This actually feeds very much into a topic that I had for Begone.
I had just finished Tender is the Flesh.
Yeah.
Which is definitely not a romance book, as we know from the last podcast.
There's what seems like a romance in it, and then it ends horribly.
Yes. So I went over to a book that was romance/horror. And I was talking to Alicia about it, because Alicia reads romance books. And I was describing it. I'm just describing it, and she was like, "Is it this book?" And I was like, "Yes, it is." I take it you've read it then? And she was like, "No, I've not read it, but people are talking about it constantly online." So I was like, huh. Maybe I clearly it's not the circles that I run in, because I had never heard of the book before, but yes, it's interesting. And actually, I finished it recently, which I'm sure we're going to do a fucking... Honestly, we might need a double segment for that, because it's such a big book.
Yeah.
And also I want to talk about the movie as well, which I haven't seen yet. And I was looking for another book, and I went, okay, I did a romance, and then I did a horror, which was it. Now I'd like to try another romance. And I chose a book, and it was called, like, The Chemist or something. And it had a really cool premise. But I started reading it, and I was 20 minutes into it, and it was... Well, I don't like using the phrase DEI, because I think a lot of people on YouTube throw it around.
It's overused.
These days.
That phrase and woke have both been like used to death.
Yeah.
So it's just I try to avoid them too, but I think a better.
But I can't deny that you can see it in the fucking writing in some books. And
actually, there's a movie that I was thinking of talking about in segment 2, but I'll talk about it now because it's not really going to be that. It won't take up the whole time. The movie's called The Green Book, right?
Right.
And it takes place in the 60s in the U.S., and it's about this highly educated and very talented classical musician, like classically trained musician, who is very black, and he's doing a tour in the Deep South. And this was a bad time to be doing that in the U.S.
Yeah.
So he hires this kind of like rough guy that worked as like a bouncer and stuff like that in New York, kind of rough lower class Italian immigrant guy. And so it's basically the two of them going through, and it didn't come out that long ago. It came out like I think 2018 or maybe a little after that. And it's the kind of movie that I would expect. There's two ways to handle a topic like that. Yeah. There's the way that what you're describing with this book, where they just like really, really like make the politics super fucking obvious. Mm-hmm. And it's just, in my opinion, that's just lazy writing or just talentless writing. And
I do have I pause you for a second. I
Yeah.
do have, I think, an answer to how I would be acceptable with it. We'll come back to that when you finish.
And this is the point I was going to make. I watched that movie and I loved it. Like, that movie handles it very well. It handles the topic tastefully. It shows, like, the struggles, but they didn't make anyone, like, a giant caricature, right?
Right.
There was nobody who popped out of a closet and just started dropping N-bombs. Like,
Right, okay,
they didn't make it, like, they handled it with grace and with subtlety, and they got their message across in a way that also told a very compelling and interesting story. So I think it takes talent and subtlety to do that, but it can be done, and it can be done very well. I feel like the problems people have with what a lot of people online are referred to as either DEI or woke is that, like, it's done lazily, and it's done heavy-handedly, and that's where people start to have issues with it.
So, the way that I think you can get away with it, because bear in mind, having just read it, it does it very well. So there is a character in it called Beverly Marsh. She's one of the children who then grows up and goes back to Derry. Anyway, she is abused by her father. And then when she grows up, she marries a man that is abusive to her as well.
Yeah.
And the day that she leaves her husband to go back to the place where it all started, he, like, is about to beat the crap out of her, right?
Yeah.
And she ends up beating the crap out of him. Now, it was done perfectly. Because it wasn't just a matter of, like, you know, she picks up a lampshade when he's got a machine gun and she walks away with no scars and he's a bloody mess on the carpet. Like, she walks away with scars. It was like a close run thing. There was tension because you were feeling like, oh my god, she might actually, this is horrible, what's happening? Like, and I mean, they even have her best friend is a women's rights activist. Like, that's pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
But they still did it the correct way.
You handle it in a realistic. It's a dark topic matter, you know. And,
yes, very.
And this is the thing. That type of writing, I think, if you try to tackle a topic like that, and you do it lazily and you do it heavy-handedly, you're doing a disservice to that topic because it's a serious thing that should be talked about. But you need to do it in a way that people are going to, like, be compelled by and not just hold up a big sign going like, this bad.
Believe me, like, every stereotype basically is brought up in that book. And I think a lot of them probably got left out when they made the film. Again, haven't seen the film yet. Really want to now that I've seen the book. But there is a bunch of kids kill a dude for being gay. A bunch of, tall, white, pointy hat people set fire to a bar.
I love the way we have to talk about things on YouTube.
With, a bunch of people inside of it. And murder a bunch of them.
Yeah.
A lot of the townsfolk literally turn away when there are children getting hurt. And a whole bunch of other really fucked up things, but every time he does it so well because it's not like... It's like, we're all aware of the pointy hat people. But they're not like... They've not got the Bond villain attitude about them. They're people who are assholes. They're not actually megalomaniacs. And what annoyed me about the book that I got 20 minutes into is that in that 20 minutes, and this is another thing, making the person who's being attacked, so for example in the case of Beverly Marsh, making them overpowered right from the beginning. I have no problem with them being powerful for a reason when you've explained why they are how they are. But right from the start, like, she gets snuggle struggled. She puts a pencil 7 inches into the man's leg. A fucking pencil. And then just after the thing has already happened, and then because the guy is a bigoted man that hate that women aren't allowed to be chemists, whatever. And then the policeman turns up and straight up ignores everything that she's saying because she's a woman and because women can't be chemists, and is like, are you sure you don't want to just, like, apologize now so I can have it on record, so when you... Like, that's not how they... If she got into the college in the first place, this is not a time... This is not fucking communist Russia.
Sorry, is this the book that you started reading and didn't get too far into?
This is the... Yes.
Okay.
And, like... And just all these horrible, horrible things are happening, and all her colleagues hate her because she's a woman.
I don't think I heard the name. What was the name of this book?
Let me just double check quickly. It was the Chemist something. It was Lessons in Chemistry.
Okay.
And her daughter, because she has a daughter, is like a prodigy. She is able to read things that no other child her age can read right off the start of the story. And other children are bullying her and stealing her lunch. Because she's so clever. It's like, just stop making the main character ultra overpowered from the start. And it's actually also a problem. Sorry, I'm going to be like 20 seconds more.
Okay.
Sorry. It's also a problem, and it happens in the book that I'm going to be talking about later, but to a lesser degree, and so I could actually see past it in that one. Sorry.
Two things. Going way back to what you were saying about, like, showing the pointy hat people as, like, they're regular people who are assholes and have bad beliefs. There's a book that I haven't finished it, but I started reading it a few years back. The book's it's realistic fiction. Actually, no, I think it's not even fiction, but it's called Ordinary Men.
Okay.
And
is it based on true events?
Yes, it's based on true events during World War II. Specifically, it follows a reserve police battalion from Germany, just normal police officers who were brought in to keep to kind of watch over. They were brought in as a police force to oversee, like, Polish territory that had been conquered. Yeah. And it follows the fact that, again, these are just they were normal police officers when they went there, but then, like, slowly over time it follows how they were kind of incrementally brought into doing worse and worse and worse and worse things.
Yeah.
And how most of there were very few of them that ever said anything, that ever spoke out about it, and there were very few of them that ever did the worst things. And the vast majority of them, like, their biggest crime was the fact that they just said nothing. They saw it happening and they participated in some of the lesser atrocities, but they just kind of let it happen. And it is a very disturbing thought that, like, just normal people put in that kind of a circumstance, they will do horrible things. Yeah. If they're just in that kind of environment. Anyway, the other thing, talking about OP characters, I've seen one book series that does an OP main character really well. And it does it by making the fact that they're OP one of their biggest flaws.
Is this that anime?
No.
Series?
No.
What's the word? Invincible, that's what I was thinking of.
No, it's not Invincible. That one, he gets the shit kicked out of him multiple times in that. So he's... Okay. His name isn't, he's very durable, especially compared to what you see.
He's fragile. He's like China.
Very durable sounds a little bit less intimidating than Invincible, but... Yeah. No, the book series is called... So the full trilogy is called The King Killer Chronicle. And...
it rings a bell.
But the first book is called The Name of the Wind. The second book is called A Wise Man's Fear. And the third book isn't out yet because the guy's taken 11 years to write the fucking book. Actually, Emily introduced me to this book series when she was in college. And I read the first book, loved it. Picked up the second book, loved it. And it's become a running joke with us every year. It's like, oh, Patrick Rothfuss still hasn't finished his fucking book. Because we've been waiting on it since 2012. That was when the last book came out.
I read we have very differing opinions on releases of books. Because I remember us discussing, I think it was Game of Thrones, and you saying, look, I don't give a fuck if he doesn't want to write it. He's going to write that last damn book.
No, he's got two
more to write. He likes it or not.
He's got 2 more to write. So,
and I'm just like, he doesn't want to write the book. Just let him not write the book. And you're like, no, fuck that guy.
He has a responsibility. He has a fucking responsibility. I've been reading these books since I was in the 8th grade. All right, so seriously, the Game of Thrones books, just to put in perspective, when I first started reading them, I was in 8th grade. Only the first 2 books was out. When I started high school, the 3rd book came out. When I started college, the 4th book came out. When I graduated from college, the 5th book came out. And nothing since then.
It's going to be a real belter.
I've been waiting for 20 years! No, it hasn't been that long, but still.
If anything short of perfection and above it comes out now, though, you're going to be like,
I don't even care if there's typos in the entire book. Just give me something. I'll correct the typos myself.
Just rewrite the book. God damn it.
But this book, sorry, the name of the the Name of the Wind and A Wise Man's Fear, which, by the way, the title of the second book, it's actually taken from a quote that one of the main characters says in it, which I love. The quote is, "There are 3 things all wise men fear: the road on a moonless night, the sea in a storm, and the anger of a gentle man." And I love that phrase. Anyway, but the main character, his name is Kvothe, and they made him super... Kvothe. Kvothe.
That's like Kvothe.
Yeah, but they say it's pronounced like Quoth in the book.
Oh.
So Kvothe.
That's horrible. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I was pronouncing it wrong for my entire first read-through because I ignored that line. And so
if I had a friend called Kvothe, I think I'd just go like, hey, dude.
I'm going to call you Big K. That's your name now.
Special K.
But they made him super OP. They make it clear from a very young age he's like basically a savant-level genius. So he absorbs information very quickly. He's very curious. So concepts so when he's like 8, he's able to do like basic chemistry because there's like a traveling, guy that's going with this is set in like a fantasy like medieval level setting. There is like magic, but it's like scientific magic in that. So it's like
alchemy.
Yeah, it's closer to alchemy. So like they can connect 2 things together, and so like if you lift one of them, the other one will raise off the ground. Yeah. But they do it through like mental focus.
See, yeah.
Anyway, so he's extremely talented at that. He picks up all these concepts, and early on in the book. This isn't much of a spoiler because it happens in like the first chapter or 2. His whole family gets slaughtered because they were digging up information about these ancient, powerful people in the world, and those people want to keep all information about them gone.
The Illuminati, yes.
So he ends up, traumatized at like the age of like 10 or something like that. He ends up like traumatized, living on the streets, or maybe he was 11 or 12. He eventually. Kind of comes out of his trauma and decides he needs to go to this university where they teach all this stuff because he wants to find the people that did this to his family. That's his main goal. And of course, he's very successful at the university, but this is how they make the fact that he's like OP his flaw. He learns things too quickly to like really understand caution. So he tends to, jump to conclusions a little bit too quickly. He learns things, but he doesn't learn, to be careful around them.
I thought you were going to say one of 2 things. I thought either you were going to say he's a weakling, or he's socially inept. Because those are the 2 classic... Like, when you're making a D&D character, and you go heavily into intelligence, your character's normally an asshole.
Well, that's the thing. He's...
fucks around with books.
He tends to be... In the books, like, he's relatively charming. He's relatively attractive. He's very intelligent. But again, because of all these natural advantages, he doesn't learn the same level of caution and the same level of like restraint that normal people learn throughout their life. Decorum. Yeah. And so he ends up picking fights with powerful noblemen who make his life difficult. He ends up pissing off some of the headmasters at the school. He ends up, being a little bit too proud to, ask his friends for help when he needs it. He, like, all of these, like, within, I think, the first week or so of him being at the school, he ends up getting whipped for a crime.
Right.
Because he, did something, he messed up and he pissed off one of the masters. And throughout the book, this is like a theme. Like, he's super overpowered in terms of his abilities, but he's constantly shooting himself in the foot because of that.
Do you want to make this a media segment someday?
Yeah, and talk about I'd love to talk about this series.
Okay, we'll maybe we should just start doing media segments. It sounds like we have like 4 lined up already that we need to do.
We talked about video games for the first 15, 20 minutes of this segment, and then we've just been talking about books and movies since then.
That's the thing. I don't know about you. I've been reading so much this last week that I'm way ahead on the amount of books I've read. And I was thinking, 1 week is enough to read 1 book, and then we can do another podcast on that. No! It's not it's too long. I've read like 3 books, 2 of which are classics. I definitely want to talk about Animal Farm at some point as well. Yeah, maybe we need to start also separate to the podcast, releasing just media segment episodes.
Yeah, cutting them out.
Yeah. I don't know. Food for thought. Anyway, we've
been going for 35 minutes.
We're a bit long. But, yeah.
We went for 40 in the last podcast.
We did. But yes. I don't know. Do you have another topic that isn't book related?
I did.
I see you.
Book related. It's sort of book related.
Okay.
What are we going to talk about in the media segment? Do we want to go? Are you going to talk about that book you were mentioning, or do we want to go? I have other things I could talk about too. I mean, we could just keep doing this during the media segment and just talking
about books.
Yeah, just talking about books. We'll just keep doing this.
But I think it's good to focus on on one story, categorize a particular thing. Yeah. So I don't know. Right. Maybe.
So, in which case, I will say this then, because it won't bleed into that. Is there any type of story, a particular type of story that is kind of your guilty pleasure? Because you sort of prefaced this earlier talking about romance stuff. Okay. My guilty pleasure is really straightforward, almost to the point of being trashy, romance stories.
So
they're not they're like, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There's a manga series that I really fucking like. I love it. It's about God, what is it? Well, there's a couple actually. But the one that was popping into my head was a series called Genshiken, I think. God, I need to get the manga and I have the books in the other room.
Yeah.
But it's essentially a semi-slice of life novel about these college students, right? They have basically a media club where it's just a bunch of it's a club room for gathering and doing nerdy shit. So reading manga.
Genji-kun.
No, it's not. Reading manga, playing video games, watching anime, and it's about how it starts off with just a couple people, and then it sort of organically grows, and they sort of grow as people, and a few of them they pair off and they find somebody that they get romantically involved with through the club and stuff, and it's just a really nice wholesome story that is just it's like warm soup. It just makes me it feels good.
So when I picked up Test of the Emerald Sea, the idea was that was meant to be a romance. And I would say that's definitely an adventure book with a sprinkling of romance. There's very little actual romance in it, and I'm fine with it because it was a really good book. But
I've been meaning to get back to that. I stalled because I was starting to get very often in that book, and I think this is just the author's writing style. There'll be moments of just oh, here's this weird thing. Why is it like this? And it's just because.
Yeah.
And it got a little tiring after a while. Like I like
There is definitely like the science side of it. You kind of gotta. Yeah.
it's
I don't
it's
know.
not.
There are parts where it's a bit contrived.
I'm okay with there being like kind of mysteries of the world as to how this works, but the thing that annoys me is the way it's presented, where the narrator will just, he'll be like, you might be wondering why it is that this thing happened, and it's like, well, that's silly for you to wonder why this happens because it should just does, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm okay if you saying you don't want to explain it. Don't call me silly for thinking it's weird that you said that.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the whole there being a narrator thing.
Yeah,
You're listening to it, right?
I am. Yeah, I'm listening to the audiobook.
Okay. I can only imagine if you're reading it, it would get really confusing. But
Yeah.
no, and I think that probably this is going to sound strange. One of the greatest romance stories, I think, is Blind Faith, because it's a dystopian novel. Don't get me wrong, but the concept that they had of, all right, so we like each other, but we can't let anyone know about it. And also, it's so much more powerful to have a I can't really describe it, basically mental sex, right? Rather than physical sex.
Well,
and it's just like, I don't think I've seen any other book that's kind of gone down this corridor of, they're not just, like, they're essentially, they're edging holding hands, as you would say. But like the romance, and then the betrayal later on, and it's like, oh, it really gets the emotion.
So I actually put back to Brave New World has elements of that, because in that world it's a dystopia, but the way, I think I talked about this in the last episode, but 1984 and Brave New World do this in opposite ways.
I hated 1984's way of doing it, but go on.
But in Brave New World, like, it's expected that everyone should just be banging all the time, and different people. And so one of the characters who, like, I think it's one of the character they find in that that reservation, and they bring him back to society. He's just like, he's disgusted by it, and he tries to communicate to the woman that he likes in the novel that, like, he wants to develop that emotional bond with her, and not just immediately have sex, and she just doesn't understand it, because in that dystopia, that's how the people have been conditioned.
Yeah, and in 1984, so the reason I hated it was because the guy, young and naive as he was, I don't know if he was young, but naive.
He wasn't young. He was like, I think he was like 40.
But he was there. He loved this woman, and he wanted to do this thing, and it was a passionate thing for him. And then he looked into her eyes, and it's just like, she's just doing this as a political stance. And I thought, that is fucking devastating. Like, it definitely got an emotion out of me, but it wasn't a nice one. It was like, oh, this feels fucked up.
I think later on in the novel they do genuinely kind of come together. The problem is, like, very near the end of the novel, before they get caught, because they do get caught.
Yeah.
Before they get caught, I think they do. It develops into more than that. But
then after they get caught, it's like,
after they get caught, then they're just both tortured into being passive, and
but then they're just like mindless drones, and they definitely don't have any feelings for each other, and it's just like, I don't know. I was really unsatisfied by 1984's romance.
Well, I think that book is much more about, like, it's a very grim novel, because it basically, by the end of it, and it's a bad ending.
The end of it certainly is very grim.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, it's just like, this is another extreme police state, basically. And yeah.
Sure, you're not just,
I don't know,
bitter that the UK is just called Airstrip 1?
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Airstrip 1? I thought it was Area or something.
No, Airstrip, yeah. You guys are just an airport.
Fair enough. But yes, anyway, we went absolutely straight back to the books there.
I know. All right. This is going to be where we wrap up segment 1. We'll be right back. You'll hear us in a moment with segment 2, which we'll be going in a deeper dive. We'll go a deeper dive into the novel that you were talking about, I'm assuming is...
Yes.
Okay.
It is called Butcher and Blackbird.
Butcher and Blackbird. All right, we'll be back with that for segment 2. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the TMCJ podcast. We are on segment 2, our media segment. And the media this week is more books.
I thought we'd already done a media segment, Kaiser. What the heck?
There was some video games mixed in there, which I guess are media too.
Trills, well, are they?
We had some topics.
Isn't media sharing knowledge or something?
No, media is just a way of...
official definition.
Yeah, I think it's just a way of conveying information. So, books, movies, TV shows, video games.
Post-it notes.
Yeah. I'm going to look this up real quick.
But yeah.
The exact... yeah. Media, the middle layer of the wall of a blood vessel.
Okay.
A voiced stop constant. What? Consonant. Or plural form of medium.
Right.
So I guess any medium that conveys information is going to be media.
Gotcha. Right, yes. Today... Go on.
This is the definition I was thinking of. A medium of cultivation, conveyance, or expression.
Gotcha. Today, I shall be discussing the romance horror book Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. And I'm going to start out by saying, before we even get into the story, there is a minute and a half of content and trigger warnings associated at the beginning of this book.
This is 2 podcasts in a row, and I have to put a content warning before this segment.
Yes. I mean, we've got to put a content warning for the whole fucking podcast, I think. But, yeah, there's... To be honest, I'm struggling to remember all the things that were bad. Like, there's... forewarning if any of these things creep you out. There is mutilation, a little bit of cannibalism, someone tries to bad touch, lots of murder, yeah, stuff like that. You get the gist.
God, 2 weeks in a row with cannibalism.
Yeah. No, I'm aware that I wasn't expecting it going into... yeah, anyway. It is what it is. It's accidental cannibalism, though, to be fair. So
okay.
that's all right.
Well, that just makes it fine. That's just Tuesday.
So, it opens up, and the main character is a girl who I can't remember the official name of, but we're going to call her Blackbird, because that's what her name is as a murderer. She is a murderer, a serial killer. Who...
Sorry, you just reminded me of a movie that I really, really liked. I'll tell you after you give the premise of the book, but
she's like a more fucked up Robin Hood, where she only murders murderers, and people that have done bad, or a more fucked up Batman, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the Punisher.
Yes. Except, as we find out later on, she's also a bit fucking nuts about the way she does it.
I mean, you could have stopped at her being a serial killer, and yeah, she's fucking nuts.
Well, yeah, I guess any serial killer has to be. But, so, opens up. She is been locked in a cage for 3 days. And there is she's locked in the cage. Immediately outside of the cage, there is a decomposing corpse of a very bad man that she had killed, but as she was sticking the dagger in him, he pushed her back into a cage and slammed the door. The decomposing man has then got has rice grains moving all over him. Yeah, I see your confusion face. This is
it's a bug.
Is an adjective of something that isn't what it is. So there are rice grains. If you can think about things that look like rice grains that move
also
over dead bodies.
I think you mean a synonym or a
Synonym,
metaphor.
yes.
An adjective is just...
Well, an adjective is a describing word. I was describing
That's a very loose step. Okay, let's keep going.
And so yes, the rice grains had eaten their way out of him and were like on their way over to her. She was also like starving, so obviously she's been stuck in a cage. But there's been there was a water drip thing, so that she's been, you know, she's not been dehydrated the whole time.
Yeah.
She's going nuts, and then a guy walks into the building and is like, what does he even say? He's like, it's a similar aged individual. So she's like, let's just assume 18.
Mm-hmm.
Guy walks in with an American accent, because I believe she's British, although this is a point of contention which I'm not sure on throughout the book, because it's a bit wishy-washy.
Mm.
So they're in London, or no, they're not in London, they're someone in England. And an American guy walks in, and he's like, what's going on here? And she's like, can you let me out of the cage, please? And then he announces his pseudonym as let's just say the Butcher, and she's like, I know this guy. Does exactly the same thing as I do, but over in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
In Boston. But she doesn't want to like let him know who she is. Anyway, eventually she has to, because otherwise he's going to leave her in the cage. So he lets her out of the cage, and they're fangirling over each other. And they go to a diner, and they sit down and they have food.
So they're both serial killers, but they're doing this in different locations. So one's Boston serial killer, London serial killer, or England serial killer.
England serial killer, yes. And they both... So they got that... So he got his name from the local police in Boston or something. She somehow gave herself the pseudonym, and everyone knows her as Blackbird.
So just quick aside here. I can't remember who it was that I was watching. It was some it was some joke video on YouTube. But he was reading through comments, and one of the comments was like, why do they always give serial killers like really badass names? They should, maybe people would be serial killers less often if they were called like the Limp Dick Strangler or something like that.
Well, ironically, that's the thing that one of the things they mentioned was like, he was pissed off because she got to choose her name, whereas the police called him the Butcher of Boston, and that's apparently lame.
Yeah, it's kind of meh.
It's meh, but it's not like, I don't know. You're a boss in Diablo, for God's sakes. So yes, they're sat at a diner, and he's like looking at her, and he's like, "Oh wow, I'm actually attracted to this person." But don't be fooled, because they will string you along on that line for many a page to come. And they like exchange numbers, and then they fuck off. So during the diner scene, I believe you find out that the way that she does her murders is that she kills them however what way, and then she takes their eyes out and like hangs them in like a web of strings. Now this is the first part where I was like, okay, well, why?
I mean, at least everyone's got to have their MO. At least she does it, when they're already dead.
But that means she's killing someone and then spending the next half an hour nailing strings to the walls and ceiling to make this web, and then she's got to scoop out their eyes and then put them in very particular places.
So she's got to have like a lot of planning time.
A lot of planning time. Also, there's got to be a lot of viscera when you take someone's eyes out. I wouldn't know personally, but I imagine baller. So. So yes, apparently that's her thing, and the police don't get her yet. They don't understand, but she's leaving clues about something in the web. But if you line up the eyes in a particular fucking way, then and she's getting frustrated. The police don't understand her, and
they just don't get me.
And she has a friend, you find out, who is like a totally normal girl, but is also aware that she is a serial killer. And the reason they're okay with it is because the friend was, when they were in school, was going to be struggled by a bad teacher, and Blackbird murked their ass, and it was the first person she'd ever killed. And so she's totally okay with her going around being a serial killer.
Yeah.
And I guess that also explains how she's completely fine being a murderer and able to overpower most people and just outsmart the cops at every turn. So, as you can tell, I'm a little bit miffed that this was kind of something that was very brushed over, and there wasn't any actual really like detail on why she is how she is.
There is a like an interesting piece of there's a piece of writing advice that I heard at one point, and I agree with this. And it's if you're going to write a character that's an expert in something or that's good at something, and you are not good at that thing or do not have the knowledge to be good at the thing, you shouldn't try to explain it in a lot of detail. You should try and kind of gloss over it in a believable way. Just say that, unless it's something fictional or ironically something that you shouldn't realistically be able to be an expert in real life, like being a serial killer.
Yes.
But, so
be able to take someone's eyes out. Just,
and if you don't have the medical knowledge to know how much of a mess that would make, I mean...
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, just that I thought of that when...
Also, we find out that the main the Blackbird has like a full murderer's den set up in her apartment or whatever, and so he gets in touch with her, and they have like burner phones with just each other's numbers on, and he says, "I've got some brothers who are one of them is super fucking shady." And he I've boiled down, he either works for, like, the Secret Services in America or the Mafia. Like, one or the other.
They're basically the same thing.
Well, I guess. I don't know. He's going to give us a game. There's a murderer in a particular area. He's going to send us to that area with a couple of clues. And it's a race to see which of us can kill the murderer first, basically.
Yeah. Also, I thought of that movie I was thinking of with the similar premise. I don't want to interrupt your flow, but the movie is called Sex and Death 101.
Okay.
And it came out in 2007. It's about this guy. It's got kind of a silly premise to start with, but the premise is just an excuse to tell the story. Set in like the modern day, this guy these two scientists develop a machine, like this powerful computer that uses some algorithm to predict certain things about people's lives. And they're testing it. And this guy, he just, like, I don't remember if they pay him or something, but he decides, okay, he'll test it. He'll be one of their guinea pigs. And the machine predicts the name of every woman he's going to have sex with for the rest of his life.
Right.
And this guy is very handsome, very charming, and it's an extensive list. I think it was like 40 or 50 people on it, different people, and it gets to the end of the movie, and he's getting near the end of the list, and he's still like, I want to say he's like early 40s in the movie.
Yeah, he gets hit by a bus or something.
Well, no, but this is the thing. He notices the last name on the list is a name of a famous like femme fatale female serial killer.
Okay.
But I'm just going to spoil it. It's actually kind of a nice movie. It turns out, she was somebody that essentially her serial killing victims were women abusers.
Right.
And it gets to the end of the movie, and he just eventually he gets to a point where he's accepted it, and he just goes to meet up with her, and they have a little bit of a heart to heart, and it ends up that the reason she's the last person he ever has sex with is they get married and they live happily ever after at the end of the movie. It's actually it's a fairly entertaining movie, but that was what I was thinking of when you were talking about the serial killer killing other serial killers. Anyway.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, by the way, they burnt the house down with the guy in it, the dead body in it.
Oh, okay.
So yes, they organised this fun challenge race thing, and it's somewhere in America. I can't remember where. I want to say somewhere in the South. So she flies over, and they meet up, and they are staying at like a bed and breakfast kind of thing in the sticks. And there's no one else staying there because the two of them like checked things beforehand, checked bookings, I guess, but I don't really know how. They would check bookings of a old B&B out in the sticks because I guarantee you that's not going to have a fucking website or database that isn't on paper. Either way, they're there, they're like being coy around one another. He's a bit more into her, but she's more into the game. And they're in their rooms one night. She had gone out during the day in a dress, and he was really fucking jealous because he was like, oh, she's going on a date with someone. And so he just stomped back to his room and he was pissed. She gets back in the evening on her own. She's in her bedroom, and he can hear, like, vibrations through the walls.
He hears the thudding of the headboard.
And he goes over to the wall, and he's like, yep, that's what I can hear. And then he also hears, like, a dude's voice. Except it's not coming from inside the room, it's coming from, like, inside the wall. And, like in the classic Scooby-Doo thing, there's, like, a painting with the eye holes cut out of a painting, and there's a dude on the other side of it watching Blackbird vibrate.
I thought she was gonna I thought she was gonna like Cask of Amontillado him, just like brick him up in the wall.
Oh,
do you know that short story?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's such a good one. I want to say it's Edgar Allan Poe. It's a really good short story, really dark.
So yeah, there's the proprietor of the hotel is jerking it in the wall, and so the guy, the butcher, like punches through a wall or something and tries to grab him. The guy runs away.
Hulk smash.
Blackbird's like, what the fuck? I was, twiddling the fiddle, and you fucking smashed through my wall, you pervert. It's like, no, there's a pervert running away, definitely. So they chase him down to this like mansion on a hill where the guy actually lives, and he jumps in a car and tries to escape. Butcher jumps on the front of the car, like the windscreen, just starts smashing away at it. The car goes into a tree, and Butcher jumps off just about. And the guy inside is like pretty badly crippled, but like able to drag himself out of the car. Yeah. Butcher's also a bit, like, I think he broke his arm jumping off the hood of the truck or something. And yeah, Blackbird's just kind of there, standing around, being like, well, this is our guy, time to murder him. And Butcher's like, no. He does a very, man take charge kind of thing. Like ordering her, no, you stand there and don't go anywhere. I'm going to go murder this guy. Asserting dominance, I believe, is the term.
He's trying to show off his serial killer chops.
Yeah, and so he mounts the dude, is like, were you watching her twiddle? And he's like, yeah, sorry. And then he like punches the guy's face in, turns it into an absolute sludge. Butcher then starts crying on top of this destroyed corpse. And the scene kind of ends with them. So he after he started crying, he's like, "Blackbird, where are you? I want you now," as in your presence. And there's a few seconds where she doesn't turn up, and he's like, "Oh, she thinks I'm a psychopath," and run away. And then she turns up anyway. They kind of hug it out, and then she goes back to England. It's a very hard, like, we've murdered a person together. Right, game's over. I'm off. And we'll do this again next year.
And is
your face, go on.
Is it the end of the book?
No.
That's just where the book ended.
So it's like a year later, and they're doing it again. And this time it's like she's sat in a very nice dress across the table from a really old dude in a restaurant.
Mm.
And he, it turns out, has been like... Basically, rather than trying to track down the killer, he's been basically stalking her during the game so that he can just kill steal, basically.
Yeah.
And so he's...
Some people would say that's a legitimate strategy. You know, just...
Yeah. So,
gotta pad the stats.
Some people would. He sits down at the table, and he's like super charming, and basically gets in her way, gets between her and the dude, in a schmoozy kind of way, and so this old man invites them both back to his mansion. There's a lot of mansions now I think about it. And they're sat at the table. He doesn't know that... Sorry, Butcher doesn't know that the old man is who Blackbird suspects is the murderer. Nor does he know what kind of murderer the murderer is. Which is really fucking dumb when you think about it, because why would she be going out for meals with a really old guy, specifically during the period of the chase game murder party?
Yeah.
And like... So they sit down for a meal. There's creepy paintings everywhere, and there's a really creepy butler dude. And it turns out that the old man is a cannibal and has basically drugged has drugged their drinks, but Butcher doesn't realise that this is a murderer's house, so he's just eating and drinking everything. He's like, this ham is delicious, and just starts stuffing it down his mouth. And then I guess whatever drug they put in the wine or whatever, it doesn't just knock you out, it's like really strong alcohol, I guess, because he starts saying just whatever's on his fucking mind.
Yeah. There's multiple substances that'll do that.
Yeah.
Truth serum is the classic one. But there's plenty of things that will give you the same effect of just, essentially lowered inhibitions that, is associated with alcohol. But
so he then passes out. The old man looks over at Blackbird's like, you haven't passed out. And then she gets up and stabs him in the neck. Which is kind of like, well, okay, that was a charade that didn't need to happen. I guess. But,
God.
Yeah.
That's something that always annoys me when it comes up either in stories or in movies, where it's like there's this long, elaborate setup, and it just ends in like... It could have just been like like it's a joke.
Yeah, they
ends.
Could have just stabbed the dude before they even got to the house.
It's adding melodrama for the sake of having melodrama.
Yeah.
Like if there's not going to be a satisfying payoff at the end of it, like... Or at least if you're going to have something like that, you really need to set it up, I feel like.
Or maybe there was going to be more to it, but she didn't expect Butcher to be there, so... I don't know.
But again, from a storytelling perspective, you've got to put that in there. Like, there's got to be some hint to the reader that, like...
Yeah, something that she was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when Butcher comes to, she's already, like, tortured the old man and plucked out his eyes. Mm-hmm. The dude's still alive.
Oh, I thought, stabbed in the neck, he was going to be...
Yeah, you would think so. I'm pretty sure it was the neck that she stabbed him in. He's unable to leave his chair anyway. And she now has his eyes, and she's putting together the strings and everything. And she's like, okay, the butler's in the kitchen. I believe he's been... They take off a bit of the brain.
Lobotomized.
Lobotomized, yeah. And he's just sat in the kitchen eating a big tub of ice cream. And the guy's like, huh. Oh, I've been eating human meat. I've been eating butt meat. So he starts throwing up.
Since we're already talking about cannibalism,
Yeah.
Something that's
on the subject.
something that's really messed up. This actually happened in the real world. I found it kind of funny, even though it was. So there's a this kind of like out of nowhere. I want to say it's somewhere in the Indian Ocean, but like this this kind of old tribal people, right? Like they still live in the same hundreds of years tribal, like out in huts and whatever. It doesn't matter. A journalist, I want to say from the BBC, went over there to do like a documentary about them, and he was hanging out with them and wanted to participate and they agreed to it. And they part of the thing was they eat the remains of like their dead or something like that as part of like a ritual thing. And he was like, "Oh no, I won't do that." And they forced him to. Yeah. And it was like, what did you think was going to happen? Like that you could just sit there with a camera and everyone was going to be like, "Oh, just you can observe." But
yeah.
Anyway, sorry. That probably was a little more messed up than it needed to be.
That's right. So the guy's vomiting everywhere. Eventually the old man dies or something. And she's like pinned the strings all over the room to make the spider web and put the eyes where they need to be. And bits of his like intestines and things as well in certain places. I can't quite remember the exact reasonings or something. Something like the distance between where the eyes are hung is like the grid reference for a certain distance, and then the body parts are like where his victims were or something. When you look at it from a certain direction, I don't fucking know. It was very contrived just to be like, oh, shock horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. They then go through to the kitchen, and sure enough, the butler dude is just like staring blank-eyed, eating a big tub of what looks like ice cream, and then they look at the handwritten label on it, and it's like ice cream and cum. Just thrown in there for the random disgusting fact of it being there.
The beginning part of this book, I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. I like the premise.
Yeah.
It seems like they're getting to, at this point in the story, melodrama for the sake of melodrama and gore and shock horror for the sake of having it.
Yes.
Like, it's...
Anyway, yeah, so there's that. And she was like, I won this year because I killed the man. I want you, as in Butcher, as as my prize for winning this. You, Butcher, have to. By the way, okay, so she is during the day, like some kind of scientist. I think it's very briefly ever mentioned, but she gives it's like, wow, she's incredibly young, but she gives seminars and things. It's that kind of, overpowered for no reason and doesn't get used.
Yeah.
And he owns a restaurant in Boston. And, yeah, so Blackbird is like, okay, Butcher...
That, I believe, a surprising number of chefs are fucking psycho.
Well, also good with knives. I kind of get it. Blackbird says, as I'm the one that won, my decision, my victory thing, is that you have to take the butler as one of your like waiting staff. They have to work for you, give them a job. Because the guy's lobotomized, he can't fucking do anything. And then they fuck off again. Not so much as a kiss, I don't think. Although after eating, human meat, I can see why she wouldn't want to.
Yeah, probably bad breath.
Yeah. Yeah, you smell like ass today. Oh.
Well, it just so happens that's what I've been eating, darling.
I've been eating ass. They start getting like cute with each other, and by cute I mean a little bit creepy. Like she goes over to Boston without announcing herself, turns up at his restaurant, sits down at a private booth, and then like bottles it and starts to walk out. But then he comes out of the kitchen and is like, "You're here. You gotta let's go talk and have food and blah blah blah." And she's like, yeah, no, I don't think so. And then just walks out and goes back to England. Literally an entire trip to fucking America. You're sitting at a table, you don't eat anything, and then you fuck off again. I know that relationships at the start are tough, but I'm sorry, if I go halfway across the fucking globe for someone, I'm not bottling it at the fucking booth. That's fucking ridiculous. And I hate that. Anyway.
I'm not familiar with that phrase. Bottling it. Yeah.
I don't know what the origin of it is, but yeah, it's when you're like, you're gonna do something, you're committed to it, and then right before you actually fucking do it, you fuck it off.
Okay.
So, she goes back home, and then he decides, I know what will be fun, I'll go over to England, right? Now, bear with me here, and because she doesn't really cook, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay a child to turn up to her door every day around lunchtime with a bag of ingredients. Then I'm going to call her and we're going to cook food together with the ingredients that I gave her, even though he's sat behind like a tree 30 feet from her house. And so they're on the phone and they're being cute or whatever. Go on.
You know, the whole going all the way to the Boston restaurant, sitting there and then just fucking off. Him going over there, teaching her to cook while he's like 30 feet from her home. It's almost like these two individuals aren't mentally stable. Yeah, I think they might be a little off their rocker.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm sure they have money to waste, but like time to waste? Probably not.
Yeah, especially if you're
being
running
like a leading
restaurant.
scientist and a restaurant owner. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
When she was in the restaurant, she like drew a picture of a blackbird, and she left it there, and he has it now stuck up in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Not particularly important detail, but it comes up a little bit later. So he never announces himself to her, and after doing this for about 4 days in a row, he goes back to America.
Now,
Go on.
just quickly, this is set in like the modern day, or is it like recent past or future?
Modern day, I believe.
Modern day, okay.
Now, the next few bits, I might have gotten out of order, but I don't think it matters. She goes over there, not for a murder, but just to meet up with him, and they're going to a big party that's been put on for Butcher, because Butcher's about to open a second restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And so they meet each other up before the party, and they go to the party. She's there thinking, fantastic, we're finally gonna, be in a relationship together. And they're dancing, and it's all very romantic, and he's like, you see that guy in the corner over there? He's a dirty fucking murderer, and we're gonna kill him tonight. It's like, and she goes,
how romantic.
Oh, huh. That's not really what I want today, kind of thing. Kind of the opposite of, I guess, how the first year went in the B&B. And I think, fuck, what happens? And then, so he gets the cold shoulder from her because she doesn't want to do the murders, and then he gets a call from someone saying, by the way, something in the kitchen blew up. So he has to leave. And then I think they go back to England / Boston again. As in, she flies back to her country again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time jumps in this. Holy fuck, there are. And they meet up again for another murder party. Mm-hmm. Go on, you're going to say something?
No, I've been trying to think of what it was. There was some either story I was reading or movie or TV show I was watching, and it did something similar. There were a lot of very jarring jumps in time where I was just like, I felt like I was supposed to intuit a couple things that had happened in between, but I didn't see the details in the show to show that these things were happening.
So they go to a kind of... I kind of think of it as Texas, because the scene ahead is very reminiscent almost of a kind of... You know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is what it made me think of, even though I've never seen that film. So they've gone to this old, decrepit mansion. Yes, another one. Actually, I don't think it is a mansion officially. I think it's like just a very big house with like you know, some fields and a coal cellar or whatever. And they're like, huh, okay, there's 2 entrances, one at the front, one at the back. Let's rock, paper, scissors to see who goes which way. Why they couldn't both go through the same fucking door, I don't quite know. But there you go. Anyway, Blackbird loses, so she has to go through the front door. And she's creeping around this old, fucked up house. They hear screams, so there's already someone being torn apart.
What?
Sorry, I'll answer that later.
He's getting a message about his next victim.
It's you.
Oh,
and so yeah, they find like the I was about to say desiccated. Actually, I guess desiccated would work. Corpse of a fresh kill. And there's a massive fucking guy running around the house with a chainsaw. Also, the mummified remains of the killer's mother is still sat upright in the living room. It's just like imagine like a hoarder's house that's been let to gather dust, and there's like doll heads everywhere and shit like that. So she's creeping through the house, checking room by room. And she walks into like a high-tech security room kind of thing. Like a surveillance room, that's the word. And she sees Butcher and also the murderer, and they're about to like meet at a cross-section, whatever. Yeah. And the murderer seems to know where he's going. And seems to know there's someone there. So she runs back out the door to try and warn him, and then gets punched in the face by the killer. No, I tell a lie. Specifically, she gets kicked in the chest, and then I think stamped on the face. She blacks out, and then she wakes up being kicked down a hill, and gets thrown into a coal cellar where there's a completely naked lady also in the coal cellar, just terrified. The killer then fucks off somewhere. Butcher eventually turns up at the coal cellar and lets Blackbird out, but does not let out the other lady, because, in Butcher's words, it's safer for her in there, even though she's like, no, let me out so I can just run away. He's like, no, just if you be quiet and hide in this coal cellar, he'll think that you've run away and then won't check here. Which is fucking stupid, alright? It's just fucking stupid. Even if she didn't stay with them, she would still be a lot safer. Whatever. the big man turns up, and big man turns up chasing the naked lady like 5 minutes later. Because I guess the naked lady somehow managed to boost her way out of the cellar. And I think she gets away or something. They trip the killer up or something and then like bash his brains in with a shovel. But they don't kill him. He's just like stuck on the floor, right? And they have him like pinned down. So Blackbird goes back into the main house, picks up the mummified remains of his mother, and decides to like pretend that the mother is alive and is going to like they're trying to fuck with him with his dead mummified mother. And so he has like a fucking heart attack and dies that way.
Okay.
Oh, also when she got like fucked around, as in kicked and stuff, it like broke her arm, and she has a massive boot print on her face or something.
That's not funny, but
because
I pictured it like a comic book imprint of a shoe.
I think it kind of is, because they specify that you can actually see like the branding of the shoe across her forehead.
This book has gotten so completely off the rails from like the initial premise to now.
Oh, between Coalshed and them tripping up the murderer, they have like their first intense makeout session
with the boot print
in the shed, with the boot print on her face. Yes, like just really heavy kissing. And then they kill the guy, and then they're like, "Oh shit, she, as in Blackbird, is really badly hurt. Don't worry, one of my brothers is a surgeon, so I will call him up and we will go to his house and he will fix you." So they're driving in the car, and I can't. They stop at a gas station, get some clothes or something because hers are fucked up, and they finally get to the house of his brother. His brother isn't in. How do they get in the house? I can't remember how they get in the house. But they do. And then his brother's side piece tries to like stab them and is crazy and believes in astrology.
You just have to throw that in there.
Well, I mean, I just really showed you just how crazy this woman is, right?
I know plenty of perfectly sane people that read horoscopes. And they say they don't put a lot of credibility in them, but I know that they do. It's just, I think...
It's one of those things where it's like, you know...
I think it's possible to be perfectly rational and a little superstitious.
I don't know. It's like a peaceful murder. What's the word to describe that? It's
Oxymoron.
It's oxymoronic, alright? Anyway. Astrology is bullshit.
I agree with you, but I still...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway. I'm sure many of the people that would read this book would believe in astrology. Anyway. They... Oh, fuck. I don't know. They eventually persuade her that the Butcher was not the one that hurt Blackbird, even though he's like trying to get a surgeon to fix her arm, and that he isn't like a bad boyfriend kind of thing. And you know, they're like, "Oh, we're not even a couple or anything." Blah blah blah. So then she goes up to take a bath, but she's like, "Oh, my arm's broken." And he says, "Okay, I'll get astrology dumbass to do it for you." And she's like, "No, I want you to do it." So he helps her into the bath. They then have gratuitous and vividly described hard sex with a broken arm.
The the further you've gone with this book, the more it sounds like one of those like dime store novels that you see these at like pharmacies in the U.S. like just a convenience store, and it's all these like they're the kind of like how do I put this? It's like it's usually middle-aged to later middle-aged women that read them.
Right.
Just.
I think this is more aimed at like late teens, young adult. I think.
Really? Okay.
They go into a lot of detail on like, oh, she has all these different kinds of piercings around her conch shell, and through her nipples and stuff like that. And yeah, so they go to the bedroom. They have very loud sex all night, and like
Can I just say, like, I understand people that get piercings in most places on their body, but men or women that get piercings on their genitalia, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's I don't know,
'Cause
I don't understand it, but I'm sure it feels very good for the other person. Who knows?
Who knows? Anyway.
Well, someone knows because someone's fucking done it. Then, and like they fall asleep. So there's a lot of like domination stuff again, where he's being very dominant, and he's like, "I'm going to we are going to fall asleep with me inside of you," and so that. I'm pretty sure that's like pretty bad to do, by the way, just on a health thing, because
But that's somebody's kink.
That ain't
out there.
clean.
That's somebody's kink out there.
Yeah, and I can understand it almost from the guy's perspective, because it's like it doesn't really affect you all that bad. For the woman's perspective, especially when she has a broken fucking arm, trying to sleep with a broken arm is one thing. Trying to sleep with a broken arm and someone inside of you,
and presumably on top of her at this point.
I'm assuming spooning.
Okay,
but I don't know.
But regardless, like,
yes,
this is transitioned from the very beginning of this story. I was like, okay, it's an interesting premise.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of fascination for. Do you know the TV show Dexter?
Mm-hmm.
So I knew a bunch of friends like from college that got really into that show.
Right.
And it was the same. It was like it was a good serial killer. That was like kind of the thought behind it. And the killings he does. I never watched it, but I'm pretty sure the premise is he's killing other killers or something.
Right.
And that's how he gets out his serial killer urges. I thought it was something similar to that, but with a romantic twist at the beginning. The further you describe this story, the more I think it's contrivance for the sake of fulfilling somebody's fetish.
In fairness, part of that I did miss out. You know that diner scene right at the beginning?
Yeah.
He was the whole time thinking like, oh god, she has massive fucking tits. But I left that out because I thought,
All right, yeah, this is somebody's fetish. Like, I'm sorry, that's what I've come to. The conclusion at this point in the book, that somebody is getting the rocks off on this book. That's what's going on here.
Well, Kaiser. This is the start. From this point onwards in the book, this is about just over halfway through the book or so, maybe 2/3. Like, every other scene is some fucking sex thing. Like, they go at it like fucking rabbits.
When you finish the description of the book, there's a novel that I read like back in high school that I've got to tell you about that just this is reminding me of.
Okay. Also, I can already feel like this recording is going on far longer than it should.
Oh, it absolutely. We're at 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Or
so,
almost.
okay, I'll speed. So, they then decide that they want to live together and all that. So she basically sells her house in England or whatever, and and moves in with him.
They move to America.
Yes. And then there's a bunch of social shit that happens. So it turns out that the restaurant that the second restaurant he was creating, he's named it Butcher and Blackbird, and like all the decor is like bird related. And there's like a special spot where only she gets to sit. And it's definitely like... It sounds definitely like... I don't know. It's fantastical. It's for someone's fantasy. And they're going out to... I think I've skipped over a massive part, but I'm not sure. Lots of sex happens.
Yeah. Just assume those chapters you skip were just them fucking.
Yeah, I think... Or they have friends that they talk to. There's a scene where she's like blowing him off before some event, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna be late. You gotta, hurry up,
get into gear."
And then she's like, "Oh no, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It's actually 2 hours later than I said it would be, so we've got plenty of time." She's like, "Oh, okay, cool." then she sticks her hand up his arsehole.
Fuck.
Well, fingers specifically. And then,
we got plenty of time. Bam!
Blam, motherfucker. Yeah. And then he finishes, and she's like, great, okay, we don't actually have all that extra time, let's go. It's like, okay. That was a pointless scene, but that was basically the entire fucking scene.
There's... so much of this is just like, this is somebody's fucking kink, and they just decided to write a book about it.
Oh, she like displeases him at some point, and so I don't know. He tortures her. He edges her for like 3 days or something. So they're going to some event at some point. There's been a lot of events. And they had to drop by the new kitchen first. I've missed out another event.
Yeah.
It was when he first takes her to the new restaurant. He takes her inside, he shows her the decor, he shows her the kitchen, and then he ties her to a table and eats her out. That was all that event was. Moving on. They've gone back to the kitchen. It's the middle of the night or something. And he walks into the kitchen, he's like, oh shit, the butler that they rescued ages ago has been left here. He obviously can't drive because he has only half a brain, or whatever. And there was a guy that was meant to take the butler back to the butler's home, but didn't. And then... So Blackbird's waiting in the car. Go on.
Just like...
What's that look?
The serial killers, the constant weird kinky sex, and then I totally forgot about lobotomy Alfred. Like, what the
fuck? So Blackbird's in the car waiting. He just needs to pop into the kitchen. He sees the butler dude, and he's going to fix something, and then he gets smashed over the back of the head and blacks out. Wakes up, he's tied to a chair. Lobotomy dude, whilst he was lobotomized, maybe he wasn't, or something, but he's also a murderer who found the old man, and so was like...
The way lobotomies work is you're using like a surgical instrument to damage the frontal lobe. And so typically, I mean, people are mostly still functional afterwards to varying degrees. It's a very brute force kind of way to do it. But the frontal lobe is where a lot of the human kind of thinking happens, like the social part of our personalities. So, but yeah.
So he's also a cannibal, but serial killer that met up with the old man, and they had kind of a good thing going. So Butcher's tied to the chair. No, he's not tied to the chair. He's not tied to a chair. He says, I know Blackbird's out the back. He obviously knows about Blackbird and Butcher because they talked candidly around him because they thought he was lobotomized. And so he says, right, you need to send her away, basically. And yeah, otherwise I'll kill her. Okay?
Lobotomy,
she
the
comes
perfect
in,
disguise.
And Butcher is like, I fucking hate you. I've always hated you. Go back to England, you slag. I remember in these text messages that I sent you 3 months ago that I said that things weren't going to work out, and I hate what we are, you're a mad bitch.
Trying to send her like a coded message, I'm assuming. Or
Yes.
to drive her off so she doesn't get murdered.
So he's driving her off, and she's like goes home crying and really angry, and goes back to their apartment to pack her bags. She's talking to her best friend on the phone, and then she's like, "Hang on a second. Those messages that he sent me 3 months ago didn't say that." And it's like the days that those messages weren't sent on are the number for like his office room padlock digit to get in there or something. And she goes in there and looks at like secret security cams of the kitchen and sees the murderer with, well, I guess the other murderer. And so she's like, okay, calls up his brother, CIA mafia, and says, I need people down at the restaurant now, but tell them to wait outside. So she runs back to the restaurant. He's tied to a chair being tortured. She comes in, and she's like, oh, haha, I was only ever in it for the murder. I love murdering people. Lobotomy man, let's be friends. And he goes to give Lobotomy man his gun back. Go on.
So how much is left of the book, just out of curiosity?
Not much.
Okay.
I am powering.
So what I'll fix this in editing.
Okay.
But I very badly need to pee.
Okay. All right.
So I'm gonna clap here so I know one. Sorry for that brief cut there. Yes, continue.
So she goes to give Lobotomy man his gun back because it was on the table. She grabbed it before announcing herself. And as he puts his hand on the gun, she stabs him in the neck so he can't make any noise because they're in a public place technically. Well, they're in a restaurant even at night in a city, so they don't want guns going off or anything. Stabs him in the neck, lets the guy free. The lads come in and clean up after them. Does anything particularly happen after that? They're like, we love each other. And then in the very last scene, I want to say, it's like a hillbilly dude watching a house. And you see Blackbird and Butcher walk out of the house. And you see Butcher's older brother, Mafia CIA, who is banging Blackbird's best friend. And the hillbilly's like, Butcher, you killed my brother. It's not a hillbilly accent. And I guess it was like the B&B dude.
Y'all killed my brother?
Something. And so the hillbilly's gonna kill Butcher's older brother. And that's the cliffhanger that leaves it on for the next book.
Oh god, there's a sequel.
I think there's a few, yeah. But yeah, that's Butcher and Blackbird. Very horny.
Yeah, I was gonna say
quite horrific.
Because again, the initial premise I thought was kind of interesting. Two serial killers, both who are kind of like you said, Robin Hood serial killers. They strike up a romance. There's drama and tension and whatnot. But then it just seems to get to like melodrama and fucking for the latter half of the book. Yeah,
after the Texas Chainsaw House, it like every scene is capped with a fuck.
But quickly, the book I was thinking of, and I haven't thought about this in years. I'm pretty sure it's still on my bookshelf back at my parents' place. I want to say it was called like Love is Murder.
Yeah.
And it was basically it was a collection of 3 short stories, all in like one like, or maybe novella would be a more appropriate way for them. But they were short, little one-off things, and they all same sort of thing. There's some sort of a murder mystery going on. There's some main female character and main male character, and then they both somehow come together and have gratuitous sex while they solve the murder.
Yes.
That's the summary of all 3 of those stories. I don't remember any details aside from, I think one of the women was like a late night radio DJ.
Right, okay.
For some reason that sticks in my mind. But it was my first...
That makes more sense, though.
It was my first time
Yeah.
reading any book like that. I didn't understand like horny novels like that. Like,
Yeah.
Before that, what I read was typically like, I read manga, I read like, and I read fiction, and I read history books, and I read like fantasy and sci-fi. Like that, those were my genres that I really read when I was younger, and I wasn't reading like the horny manga. I was reading like Gundam manga or like stuff like that. And so that was my first experience with reading a book like that, and I was like, it was a very simple story, and a good chunk of it just happened so the 2 main characters could bump uglies.
Yeah.
Like, this one...
The first half of the book, they keep, like, hinting at it, and there is definitely a point where you're like, oh, just fuck already.
Yeah.
But then when they fucking starts, the floodgates are opened.
Yeah.
And,
going from, like... It's funny how and this will probably be obvious to people who have been listening, how my reactions changed over the course of this hour-long discussion of the book, where at the very beginning it was like, okay, interesting premise, oh, it reminds me of this, or it reminds me of this, and just, wait a minute, what? And then, wait, this is just somebody's fetish.
Yeah. The police never found out about the fucking map thing, the eyeballs.
Also, I think what makes me lean even more towards this being like more of like a romance / horny novel than anything else, like you pointed out, it's always in a mansion. It's always it's not only like, it's always in a sexy environment.
Well, the first one, it's like, it wasn't even like, the guy just happened to have, like, his house it was like a massive house on a hill, so I just picture a mansion, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, it's always described as, like, a massive fucking house. And
Well, it's like,
yeah,
a lot of soap
I think
operas.
that they're really trying to distill that, it's always the rich, privileged, people that are fucking murderers, bad people. Which is fine, I guess.
I mean,
it definitely gives them more opportunity to do so.
That's the thing. I think that's what a lot of people miss out on. It's not that there's a higher proportion of them that are evil people. It's that they have the means to do it for longer and to do it on a bigger scale.
Yeah, but it wasn't about... also, I think it was probably better as a listen than as a read. So, I think... so there was 2 narrators. One who played all the male voices, one who played all the female voices, I think. And yeah, I mean, if you're into hearing an Irish dude describe fucking you, then yeah.
I thought it was from Boston. Well, I guess that same thing.
Yeah, you should fucking know. But yes, thick Irish accent, and an English lady. But yeah, we are way over time.
We really are. All right, so we're going to move on to segment 3 now. That'll be where we wrap things up here. That was not where I expected this segment to go when we started, but
no, it wasn't quite dinosaurs, but
it was somewhere between last week and the dinosaurs.
Exactly, yes, that's an apt description.
God, all right, this is going to be the end of segment 2. We'll be right back with segment 3. Stay tuned. And we're back with segment 3 of the TMCJ podcast. It's totally not a completely different day, and we recorded this very separately, but I
I
have.
nailed the intro as well. Not a single trip.
Yeah, no, I didn't fuck anything up. We are.
This is definitely our first attempt at the intro, and not our 13th.
Hey,
Yeah.
that implication is not true.
What's up?
Anyway, so it was my turn this week to do the segment 3 sort of tomfoolery. For reference, and anyone that hasn't listened to some of our previous episodes, segment 3 is usually our experimental segment. Our segment where we try out something different. Quizzes have been the most popular and the ones we like going back to the most. But I thought I would change up the quiz segment a little bit. So, what I am going to do is I am going to provide Blue with a screenshot. And he will have to guess what game that screenshot came from.
Okay.
I will say,
very easy.
You
said it was going to be very hard.
In fairness, well, I tried to make it trickier. So in fairness,
Okay.
all of these screenshots have come from games that you have played.
I'm waiting for the tricky bit.
And I've purposely
And you hate them.
I've purposely cropped out like the HUD or anything that would
Okay.
immediately give away
Right,
like that's what this game is.
I'm going to get 6 pixels.
Yeah, so you get a good chunk of screen in these screenshots, but
Okay, I like this.
so the hint is I have 10 of them.
I'll do my best to alliterate on what I see for the sake
Yeah.
of those just listening.
And for the sake of those watching, I will, if I'm not
Diligent.
lazy, I will be editing these screenshots into the actual the video version of the podcast. All right, so are you ready? And I will you will.
Yes.
I'll be generous. You'll have a full minute to guess each one.
Full minute.
A
Okay.
full minute. Although
Very generous.
some of these
Feels like we're padding for time.
well, there's 10 of them. I'm expecting you
Okay.
to get some of these fast.
Right, okay. So I need to be looking at Discord, right?
You do, and I need to open up a stopwatch.
Wait, but hang on, that means I can't have a full screen of my own camera. I can't just stare at myself for the whole time. That's not how these podcasts normally go.
I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to look longingly into your own eyes.
Oh.
All right.
Alright.
Are you ready for screenshot number
I
1?
thought there was fucking music. I thought you hit a button and started playing music. It was a motorbike out on the fucking road. I was like, some kind of noise is
I
coming
was
through.
playing music from the loving
Yeah.
embrace of Days Gone.
Ah.
All right. So, are you ready for me to post you the first
so ready.
screenshot? Okay. So, I'm gonna post the screenshot and then immediately hit go on the stopwatch. All right. So, here's
Okay.
the first one, and I will hit enter. Go.
Okay, that's oh, I know what it is. I just don't know the name.
He was so
This
confident.
is so
a second
okay.
ago.
What I'm looking at is a square-based grid map. There's a giant purple crystal in the middle and some dead trees. It's the resource gathering area for wood and floor crap from Bright Shores.
Yeah, you got it.
That's the one.
All right,
It's
you
a
got that
bad
one in
name for an
25
alright
seconds. 25 seconds. All
game. I
right.
probably could have guessed that sooner if I didn't start describing it. I was just like, I feel like I need to. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
All right.
Bright Shores.
Yeah, congrats. You got number 1. All right. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So, number 2.
Oh shit.
Let
I
me
need to
reset my
record
stopwatch
score.
here.
Yeah.
All right. So, I will hit enter in just a moment. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Oh, I didn't send it. There you go.
I was like, oh wow! Literally the game I was playing before we started this recording.
Well, I didn't know you were going to be playing it when I made this quiz.
So there's a bunch of bugs. They're all swarming around a dwarf in a cave. He is surviving, you might say. It's Deep Rock not Deep Rock Galactic. Deep Rock Survivor. That's the word.
He doesn't know. Yes, that is.
That is Deep Rock Galactic.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking with you, but yeah.
No, it wasn't you fucking. It was me being like, no, I am right.
It's Deep Rock Galactic Survival.
Yeah.
Or Survivor.
For some reason, in my
something
head,
like
I got Deep Rock Galactic and like Stargate or something. crossed over, but like it's one of those old sci-fi.
You know what? I feel like I do need to make these 30-second time limits because you're getting these in under 30
I mean,
seconds.
I was literally playing that less than 10 minutes ago.
All right, we'll keep it at a minute.
Okay.
All right, reset the timer. All right, this one might be a little bit tougher, but we'll find out. All right, gonna hit the button in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, ooh, this is a better one, but I still... Oh, actually, oh, no. Okay, I think you've done a trick one here. So, this is... Oh, actually...
He's got to think.
I feel like this isn't a game that I've played.
All of these are games you've played.
Because this looks like Legion TD, but it looks like maybe Legion TD 1. If it's... what else could it be? I mean, it's fucking Legion.
You've passed the 30-second mark.
Okay. It is Legion. It's Legion Tower Defense.
Okay, that's your final answer?
Yes.
It is. And
I've
here's
played
where
the
the tricky
first
bit
one.
came in.
Okay.
It is the beta of Legion TD2.
Oh, I never played the beta.
But you played Legion TD. I got a couple.
No.
So now you know there's some tricksy bits on the table.
Okay, is it going to be fucking Final Fantasy Online before it was actually good, when it was in that shit phase?
I probably should have.
And they literally rewrote the whole game.
I should have thought to do that, but I didn't.
Good lord. Okay, but okay, 3-3.
Yes. So there's but you still got it.
You know what? Okay, so for a second I doubted myself, thinking it was one of those really complex StarCraft 2 mod maps. Because they had like a bunch of like weird fun game modes that people had made, and it reminded me of one of the.
It does kind of look like that, yeah. Like there's a bunch of like tower defense.
But then, yeah, I saw the guys at the front. I thought that kind of looks like a unit, and then I looked at the birds. I was like, that kind of looks like a unit, and then when I saw the snipers, I was like, it's got to be this game. But yes,
that was admittedly, that one was a curveball. I thought about using a different screenshot, but yeah, okay.
Good job.
All right, so this one, we'll see what you think about this guy. This is picture number 4. I'm going to send it in 3, 2, 1, go.
It's still sending.
Oh, did it not send yet? Oh, there you go.
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, I realized looking at that was.
I have been playing so much Stardew the last one.
When I took that screenshot, I hadn't thought about the fact that we had just played 4 hours of it the night before, but still.
Yeah, Alicia and I have been playing it every single day. We're on the 2nd year now, by the way.
Dear
and
God.
We started after you and I.
Yeah, so we're 4 for 4, by the way.
Yes.
You were doing very good with these. I'm starting to think that I probably should have been a little bit rougher with these screenshots.
Yeah, I like how before this you're like, I think I made these too hard for you.
Well, the thing is, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've done we've done this.
I will say I am enjoying it a lot, and that's what matters.
All right, here we go. Here's screenshot number 5. All right, I'm going to send it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, this is Payday 2. What the fuck were you thinking?
I barely had time to start the timer. All right, so this one, I debated whether or not I should cut out the guy. So, it would have been...
That would have been more of a challenge. I can literally tell you where that is on which map. But... Again, one of my most played games of all time.
So the thing is, on Halo 2, I could do that as well. I didn't...
Yes.
But again, I wasn't sure, so I leaned on the side of... I should have been rougher.
You should have. I've literally got that mask in the cupboard behind me.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah.
All right. Screenshot.
Okay, 5 for 5.
That was number 5. So let's
Yep.
go with screenshot number 6.
I'm fighting at the moment with adding a bit of drama to it, and also my massive fucking ego.
No, go with the ego.
Okay, go with the ego. All right.
If this ends up being a short segment because you fucking crush it, go for it. We'll spend the last 10 minutes talking about, I don't know, flowers or something.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Sending it in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, it's there. Peglin.
Yeah.
It's literally got the main character in the middle of it.
Does it actually? Oh,
Yeah.
fuck, I missed that. Damn it.
That's the giant slime.
I meant to take just a screenshot of an enemy. I totally missed that the fucking main character was in the middle. Damn it. All right. The last two were a little...
What you should have done is had that picture and then just cut out the middle bit of the photo.
All right. The last...
Okay, what's my score now?
You're
6 or
6 for
7?
6.
6 to 6. Okay.
All right. Let's see this. Let's see if I can recover. I gotta trip you up on at least one of these.
After we finish this, I need to check on my Steam account which of these games were in my top 10 games of all time.
I will say that what I did was just go through your library and pick things at random.
Yeah.
So some of them were obvious. Like I wanted to put some in here that you would. Apparently, I was a little too soft.
A little.
Next time I do this, because I like this concept. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
But the next time this happens, I'm going to be a little bit
You know what I would
more
love
tricksy.
to see? I think I'd love to see Alicia do these pictures. I still think she would get so far all of them except Deep Rock.
I think maybe Brighter Shores.
Oh, she wouldn't get Legion actually.
Legion, Brighter. To be fair,
She has played Brighter Shores.
but Legion was the one that that has tripped you up the most so far.
Yeah, well, because it wasn't a game I played, you know.
Because I kind of sort of cheated at my own game. But
no, I think that was a good shout though, because it actually made me think, and I did still get the answer. I just had to think.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, hit it.
All right. Here we go. Number 7.
Ni no Kuni 2. Wait, Ni no Kuni. Yeah, it's 2.
Ni no Kuni 2. Final answer.
Yeah, there wasn't a bridge in 1. Or was there? Was there a bridge in number 1?
Let me know when you've locked in on an answer here.
It looks. So I only played Ni no Kuni 2 through once, and you only really go to the Cat Kingdom basically once. I'm pretty sure that's number 2, because that's looking way fucking bigger than Ding Dong Dell.
All right. 2. Final answer.
Yeah.
You're correct. I thought I could trip you up with it being the second game, not the one that we played.
Well, the first thing I said was Ni no Kuni, and I was like, hold. It's too big. Yeah.
All right. We'll see. Let's find out if I think this one is one that I think is going to be tricky for you, but we'll see. All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Now it's loaded. That's XCOM. But which one? So I was never good at telling apart the XCOMs, even though I played them all. When I say all of them, I mean the modern ones. So it's got the exoskeleton, but I'm sure the exoskeleton in all of them. Honestly, I'm gonna have to take a stab in the dark with this one and say enemy unknown.
So XCOM 1?
Was that XCOM 1?
Yeah, Enemy Unknown was the first one.
So
Yeah.
you got the...
Yeah,
the
20
dudes
seconds
at the
left.
Back.
1 or 2?
I'm gonna stick with 1.
It's your first slip up. It's XCOM 2.
Okay. Are you sure that all these things aren't in number 2? Aren't in number 1?
This screenshot specifically is from XCOM 2. It's
Okay.
it's not there might be.
I'm trying to think.
There
of
might be
what
elements, but
actually
this
changes.
screenshot, and the other thing is, like, you can tell mostly because of the quality of the graphics and some of the weapons. This is XCOM 2.
The quality of the graphics. Remember who you're talking to, mate. With my piece.
If you had stuck
things
with,
at the bottom, no matter what.
So Enemy Unknown is also XCOM 1.
Yeah.
So, but yes, this is XCOM 2. You actually, I was like, the moment you said XCOM, I was like, oh fuck, you got another one.
It's definitely it's very obviously XCOM. Sorry.
See, I would not have got that.
I mean, the dude in the background. You only ever see that guy in an XCOM game. Maybe you could argue.
Okay,
it was a little bit like a flood.
I did not. I didn't even pick up on that. I was mostly focusing on the character in the foreground.
It's got the fucking nationality flag on their collar.
Oh yeah, I see the German flag. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Under normal circumstances, I'd say you get half a point, but because you've done so fucking well,
that's fair.
I'm being harsh on this one.
It kind of looks like they have a metal penis shooting a laser. I'm just saying.
All right. Let's
also,
see.
I don't think I ever used the exoskeletons.
I think the next one is pretty hard. But
yes.
Considering how quickly you got the XCOM one, I'm not positive.
Okay.
So here we go. I'm going to send it in 3, 2, 1, go.
Now it's loaded. Oh, this is Forager.
I thought this was going to be a tough one.
That is a tough one because I don't know why the fuck you'd build 1 billion lighthouses. But when I saw the ballistas, that was when I was like, oh, actually, also you can see the main character at the top of the screen.
Oh, okay. I tried to clip out any
I didn't see him.
I tried to clip out any obvious characters, but yeah, I missed that.
Forager's got quite a style to it.
Yeah, very particular aesthetic.
Yeah. God.
I was hoping the art style would be enough, but yeah, I missed that. All right.
Also, I think I've played it through the whole game 2 or 3 times. Really good game.
All right, so we are on to the final screenshot.
Yar!
And this one, judging from how things have gone so far, this is either going to be extremely easy for you,
okay,
or tough. Because you've picked up on details.
There's no in between.
You've picked up on details on some of these screenshots that I'd like. I don't know. You seem artistic. Is all I'm saying. I'm saying you seem artistic.
I see. Artistic. Yeah. Could be an engineer. I could.
You could. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so it's Sniper Elite. It's the... Wait, is it Sniper Elite? I'm pretty sure it's Sniper Elite. It's the one that we played, Sniper Elite 2. It's the dockyard one, where you start on the far right of the picture and you kind of wind your way around, and you got a bunch of extra objectives like blowing up ships and stuff, which we never did. There's like a tank on this level, I want to say, that kept fucking murking our asses because we thought it was dead and it wasn't. And the really fucking annoying snipers on the cranes. But I am certain Sniper Elite 2.
So I'm going to give you this one because...
is it 3 that we played, or 2?
We played 4.
4? Okay, wow.
You were way
I
up on the
only
number.
ever played 1 Sniper Elite, so I was just like...
That's why I'm giving it to you, because the 2 of us only ever played 1 Sniper Elite game. Okay. It was Sniper Elite 4.
I think half a point is fair.
I'm still shocked that you got that quickly. I thought I cropped out like everything. To me, that looks like a fucking Call of Duty level.
It's gonna sound strange, but it's too open for a Call of Duty level.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, the graphical qualities of that of like the era of COD 5, and I know every fucking mission in COD 5 like the back of my hand, so it wouldn't have been that. But yeah, that was a good one. When I first, the initial thing when I saw it, I was like, I'm not sure what this is. And then I was like, I recognize... Honestly, it was the warehouse in the background, the blue one.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember going along that way a few times.
What the thing is, like, now that I've actually zoomed in on the screenshot and looked at it, so the place on the other side of the dock, like under that little camo tent there, I totally remember sneaking around that area and trying to find loot. Like, it just... now that you're saying it, I actually do remember that level. But yeah, so
damn.
Total points, 8.5. You fucking nailed ones that I wasn't expecting you to nail.
Yeah, that was really fun. I like that. Hopefully, Kaiser remembers to put the image up for everyone at home. And hopefully he also puts in like a delay on the video so that my answer doesn't instantly come through. Maybe. So,
the way I thought about this ahead of time. I've named the photos in such a way that it makes it very easy for me to figure out like where to put them in the actual final edit. Like, I didn't name the photos after the game. I named them after the order I'm going to be presenting them in the podcast.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's pretty bad for, like, this is clearly, like, Payday, but they're talking about Ni no Kuni. Yeah.
It would be funny to put them up in the wrong order. Yeah. But yeah, so you like that concept, though?
Yeah, it was a good concept. It's actually quite similar to an idea I've had recently, which we won't see, I guess, until next week. We're a nerdy podcast.
I mean, yeah.
But I think all these different ways of, because there's so many ways to skin a cat, as they say, and I think it is fun trying all these different things rather than just do quizzes every week.
Well, and this is always the struggle. When we talked about this the other day, and I was like, "Okay, I'll do segment 3 this week." My first instinct was like, "Oh, do a quiz," but I'm like, yeah, but it's always a quiz. Like, finding something kind of clever to do. I think we turned it into a video on the YouTube channel separate from the podcast, but we did one of those choose your own adventure things one week. I think.
Yeah, we did. So I got a bunch of those books, but then it turned out it wasn't great because
it wasn't. But
you would die too quick, and then.
But that's the point of segment 3: is it's time to experiment.
Yeah, I think what I've considered in the past is doing another one of those kind of... I don't know if you remember the wine or cheese thing. Where basically I would just put you in a scenario and then ask what you would do, and I'd just continually make the thing as we go along. Nothing scripted, nothing planned. And...
an improv choose your own adventure, yeah.
Exactly. Improv for both the DM and the player.
Yeah, I did like that. I actually had forgotten about it until you just mentioned it now, but that would be something fun to do again sometime.
Yeah.
Anyway, but despite how quickly you got through that, we're still sitting at like a little over 20 minutes, and considering how long we went for segment 1 and 2,
yeah,
probably a good time to wrap up the podcast. Any final thoughts or anything else you wanted to talk about before we kind of wrap things up? Just thinking about... I know it's a different...
some interesting facts out about cleaning earlier today. But, you know, I think... Actually, I was going to say... Putting that aside for 1 second, I think we have plenty to talk about for the first part of the next round. I'm not going to say what it is.
Yeah.
But I have been... having YouTube up in the background today, just auto-playing.
Yeah.
And it's been going through Asmongold's videos. I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this, but I now know a lot of stuff that I didn't particularly care for, but it's very interesting.
From what you messaged me about earlier, I am looking forward to recording that piece of the podcast.
Yes.
In fact, I wouldn't mind, during the week this week, recording the podcast kind of maybe ahead of time, because while I edit this one and get it up. But regardless, that's something to discuss offline. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode of the TMCJ podcast. Episode 103. We're actually back to... I know I said this when
are you doing the book review next week? Because you said you've got a book. Right?
I have a book
trilogy.
I have a book series I would like to talk about. Yes. So for next week, I would like to do the discussion, the segment 2.
Do you want to tease what the book series is?
Yeah. So the book series. So the author is called Joe Abercrombie. Each trilogy has its own title. The first trilogy is called the First Law trilogy. The trilogy that I actually read first is the third trilogy, and that one starts with the book called A Little Hatred. This is the series which I love the way the author does this. Like, the title of every book is based on an actual historical quote. So the book that I'm finishing up right now in the first trilogy is called The Last Argument of Kings, which is what the last king of France had etched on all of his cannons.
Yes. Yeah, I'm talking about this. Yep.
So there's a few very, very good quotes that are associated with the book. The second book in the series, the other one I really like, is Before They Are Hanged. And the full quote is, "We should forgive our enemies, but not before they are hanged." Which, again, love the quote. Great series. And a teaser on the kind of tone of the story. This author stated that one of the things he disliked about a lot of fantasy novels was that the fantasy setting never progressed. Like, you end up with 1,000 years and it's all the same shit. Whereas in his fantasy universe, like, they go from kind of medieval and magic to an industrial age to et cetera, et cetera. Like, there actually is progress in terms of how the world moves on. And it's done very, very well. The writing's great. It is very much dark fantasy.
That is a teaser.
Yeah. Again, I'm not going too
It's
far.
a long teaser. I was like, when's he gonna stop? It's a teaser, Kaiser.
I'm
He's
sorry.
too eager.
I'm sorry.
Get back in the cage.
I'm too eager to stop teasing.
Oh, he's such a edge.
Anyway.
Such an edgelord. But yes, do you wanna? Should we wrap it here then?
I think that's a good place to end the podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed, again, this episode of the resumed TMCJ podcast. This was a briefer segment, but I think we've got a good concept moving on. It seems like we're going to keep doing this because we've already got ideas for next week. So until then, thank you for listening, and you will hear us next time.
Goodbye.